Welcome back, everybody, to Mining Stock Daily. We have a corporate update for you to finish off this Thursday on a shortened week here in U.S. markets and on the podcast. Happy to welcome in Kit Mars, CEO of Western Alaska Minerals. They do trade on the Venture Exchange with WAM. Kit, welcome back to the podcast. It seems like we find you in Alaska.
Yes, we're talking to you from our Alaska headquarters in the village of Talkeetna, or outside the village of Talkeetna, just south of Denali Park. We'll be heading, weather permitting, either tomorrow or the next day or two out to the Illinois Creek project, and then we'll be out there for a week or 10 days for actually our first analyst site visit of the year, which will be on coming Thursday, the 13th. We'll have a group coming from U.S., Canada, and actually one of our larger shareholders, Commodity Discovery Fund, sending their lead fund manager out of Amsterdam.
Oh, very good. Well, that should be exciting and obviously a beautiful time to be in Alaska. Things are really kicking off here because you had, I guess it's really your first news release out of your 2023 exploration program. Before we kind of talk about this, let's just make sure that there's no assay results here, but they are important holes, and you provided a little bit of visual context from these holes within the news release that was published earlier today. A combination of both step-out drilling and infill drilling. Kit, let's talk right now first about the step-out drilling, because that hole 30 has intersected two zones of mineralization. One was 82.5 meters wide, another one 8.1 meters thick, but has it sounds like a massive sulfide hit in there.
Yeah, and what we always want to be careful with, since it is a visual, is that the total intercept, the 82.3 meters, is the overall length. So that is not all massive sulfides. Want to make sure that's clear. And it's a mixture of massive sulfides, semi-massive sulfides, which means galena, sphalerite are the two main ore minerals, the lead and zinc mineral, along with pyrite. But this is a carbonate replacement deposit. So you have inner beds of dolomite, which is the original carbonate host, that have not been replaced. So you have some selective replacement. And then in areas where geologically everything's sat along a little longer, more responsive to the mineralization, that's where you have the massive sulfides. And then in some, because this is right near a fault zone, there are occasional some gaussons, which are just oxidized sulfides. So it's a mixture. When we sample it, each zone will be sampled separately, and then we'll have a more detail. But it does, because it's such a wide zone, and there is a 8.1 meter thick intercept that really is true massive sulfides, we know that we're in the what's called the upper manto, the lead, zinc rich, silver rich manto of Waterpump Creek. So very encouraging from that standpoint.
Also, step out drilling, you highlighted hole 32, which is interesting. Would love a little bit of context for me about the importance of 32, because you mentioned in the news release it potentially offsets the southerly continuation of WPC in the last hurrah mineralization. So this is why is this important for you as going forward with the exploration program?
Well, we know that we know from now geologic evidence and drilling, but it originally showed up in the geophysics last year, that there was an offset, basically a right lateral offset of the Waterpump Creek mineralization to the north, and then you want to know where it goes to the south. So it is a right lateral, and the going through the fault shows that we know its exact location. And that just helps us geologically as we move south to what we call Anaconda's last raw target, which was a combination of geology, really good surface soil geochemistry, and old 2005 geophysics, and now our new 3D induced polarization geophysics is just being completed. So all those put together to show us there is a continuation that's now called the last draw target. We have 4 drill holes planned for that. One is nearing completion. The others are just starting, and so that'll be the big target test going south. But it's at depth, and this kind of exploration for CRD deposits, we have to drill multiple holes along a fence to figure out exactly where we are, because you're looking at for a target that's say 75 meters wide, and we're at about
Mm,
250 meters depth. So it takes some probing to find.
sure, sure. Okay, there was also some infill drilling. Last year, you drilled hole 18, which was a real whopper of a hole for you. That was over 100 meters of 160 grams per ton silver, 5.3% lead, and 5.5% zinc. This hole 29 was a step out 28 meters east southeast of that original hole 18. And obviously, you want to see continualization, just as good mineralization when you're infilling anything here. And I think that's exactly what you got. Or it seems like, without seeing the assay data, let me add.
Yeah, it is. It's and why we when we do the visuals, we're now learning how to do this properly and be as careful as we can. And so we provide photographs of the actual core boxes and then close up of some individual samples. So when we're just saying massive sulfide mineralization, there's an example in the news release, which I would encourage everybody to take a look at 151 meters. It's a nice sample of predominantly argentiferous galena mixed with sphalerite, and that's identical to the samples in the previous holes 17 and 18. So it's not quite as thick. We think we're pretty confident now that 18 was one of these fortunate holes that drilled right down a feeder chimney zone. So it is going to definitely have more vertical extent. And then the step out is off to the side laterally. So the key is just to show that the mineralization does continue laterally. And
Mm,
the grade and the thickness is so good that you don't need very many meters to add a lot of tons when you have this type of thickness, and the specific gravity is about 3.7. So it's a pretty heavy dense rock. So we're very
yeah.
encouraged with the step out in in hole 29.
No. You lost it actually. You lost it in mineralization. So you don't know exactly what the extent and depth of that mineralization is yet.
No, we didn't get put all this in the news release because it's just part of it is just sort of fun geologic fun facts, or not so fun sometimes. The whole basically the drilling tools got stuck. They twisted off. We couldn't retrieve those with the smaller drill rig that was on site. We all moved on and kept drilling. Finished through hole 33. But then before we left the site to go up to Last Hurrah, we put our larger, brand new heavy duty drill rig on it, and it was able to recover the lost tools. Sort of unusual, but
Hmm.
it pulled them all out, hauled everything up to the airstrip as they were taking things apart and repairing, and lo and behold, the core barrel had a zone that had massive sulfides in the bottom. So too late to go back. We'll have to drill next to it next year or another time, but it does show that there was another zone of mineralization. Thickness is unknown, but it's encouraging to know it's there.
Okay. There's other highlights out there within the drill results, but Kid, I think we should maybe let's wait a little bit longer until official assay results are out for the holes. But maybe let's just leave it with this. My last question, really for you and your update to listeners and shareholders, is really these are the first holes out of Waterpump Creek for 2023. What are you taking away from this? What do obviously great mineralization, but it seems like you're on the right path. You're going out and doing exactly what you set out to do. I mean, what are your takeaways here with these early visual results?
The early visual results just confirm that yes, we are still getting the galena sphalerite mineralization. For a geologist on site or with the photos, it's pretty clear, pretty obvious what it is. The key now, though, is moving south across the Illinois Creek Fault. We are within a few days of completing a very state-of-the-art, cutting-edge 3D induced polarization study run by Diaz Geophysical out of Saskatoon. We're down to running very tight 200-meter lines apart. And what's pretty unusual, it's almost a first for Diaz, is the stations are only 25 meters apart. So the goal of this is to get a very defined three-dimensional model picture of the conductors, and that will really help in the drill targeting. It's taken a little longer than planned, and some of the drilling went faster than planned. So we got ahead of the drilling, got ahead of the geophysics. So it's not quite modeled, but the 3D data array that gives you this high definition is just a huge amount of data. Instead of the old two-dimensional lines, you're reading 4 lines at a time in 3 dimensions, and we're just learning how long it really takes to run the computer models, even using some pretty good cloud computing. Some of these models are taking 32 to 40 hours per run. So it slows everything down, but it'll be a very good geophysical model when we're done, which we'll release that publicly as soon as it is done, but it'll probably be another 10 days to 2 weeks.
Okay. That'd be interesting. And then maybe communicate a little bit further exploration strategies based on those results later, or do you think you include that in with the data?
We'll include that. We're using the preliminary results right now to spot the drill holes. They're just not final. We would have preferred to wait another week or 10 days before, but the drill crews are there, so we're actually going to be drilling as close as we can to those geophysical anomalies as we speak. And we'll be wrapping up that first phase of drilling probably by the end of July. And then we'll step back, reinterpret, see if we're ready to drill some more tests there. And then, of course, all of this in the exploration business is funding dependent. So,
how is the bank account right now? How are we sitting?
We're doing real good. We probably have in the 3 to 4 million range, but we have 2 drills going, 35, 38 people in camp with the geophysics. So we are spending money. And so right now we'll be finishing up the first phase of the whole program, the end of July, August 1st, and then we'll step back and reevaluate what our next steps are, because there's a lot of data coming in and we just don't want to, we like to really plan what our next steps are and have a good plan.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, you and I will be touching base here again, probably pretty quickly as soon as we get assay results from these holes, and then also some of that geophysical data you talked about, which is imminent here in the next couple of weeks. So, Kit, have fun up there and tell everybody hi. Be safe there on the ground at Waterpump Creek.
Okay. Well, we will do that, and weather permitting, we'll fly out there in the next few days through the Alaska Range, and it's be nice to get back out on the project. It's always a good feeling.
I'm sure it is. All right. That's your update from Western Alaska Minerals, everybody. Again, trading on the Venture Exchange with WAM. That's a wrap for us here today. We got a 2-part segment tomorrow talking big market macro with Eric Basmajian. And then also Rob McEwen's back. All right. That's tomorrow. Take care, everybody.